Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Pod Save Chocolate. My name is Clay Gordon. I am your host, and today we're going to be talking about annual reports, specifically the fact that we're coming into annual report season. And today's episode is going to be talking about two annual reports from last year, and we're going to be reviewing them and thinking about what we should be looking about, what I hope, what we can anticipate that we will see from reports from this 2026 annual report season, specifically from two companies, one of which is Tony's Chocolonely, and the other one is from an organization in Australia called Be Slavery Free and their chocolate scorecard. Before we get into today's episode, what I'd like to do is remind everybody that this episode, a Pod Save Chocolate, like every episode, is supported by the members of the Chocolate Life. This is the homepage of the Chocolate Life right now. You can go there, right? And if you're not currently a member, you can click on the join button, which is up here on the right. And what you'll do is you'll see that we have a number of memberships, including a free membership, but they're also monthly and annual memberships. And so if you do have the resources to support the work that we're doing here at the Chocolate Life, I appreciate your becoming a member and supporting the work that we do. Now, one thing I do want to point out as a result of membership is that I recently just published this, Trendy Trends Trending, which is an ebook. And this ebook is available for free to premium members. You can see over here in the corner, it does say premium there. If you're a premium members of the Chocolate Life, you can get a copy of this book at no additional charge as a perk of your membership. Before we jump into today's episode, I do want to remind everybody to go into the live chat on YouTube or the comments in LinkedIn and Facebook. Let me know where in the world you are connecting from, and I'll get that shout out up on screen. And if you have a question or a comment about anything in today's episode, I will also put it up on the screen and do my best to answer it. And with that, let's go take a look at this post. You can see I'm sort of hiding it here. We're going to go and take a look at this post here. Right? For every episode of Pod Save Chocolate, I put together a post on the Chocolate Life. And here is the post for today's episode. Now, it's really a run of show. None of these episodes is scripted. So this is the run of show. And I also want to point out that if you do have access to two devices, you can scan the QR code, which is just appeared up on the screen. It's up there in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. Scan the QR code. You can open up this page that you're looking at right now on another device and follow along. So in addition to everything else, if you're looking at this afterwards, it's sort of reverse inception. You can find the links to watch this episode, which you're already doing, which it's just part of the way things work here. I'm future me talking to past me, or past me talking to future me. It works both ways. So with all that out of the way, what I want to do is I want to go and take a look first at the chocolate scorecard. And before I get actually looking at the chocolate scorecard website, by the way, here is a link to the chocolate scorecard website. You can't see it here. Here is a link to the chocolate scorecard website. Right here, it's not very well formed. It doesn't actually give me an image, so it means the metadata in the site is not working properly. I wish it was. You can see the Tony site actually populates properly, but we don't have it here. I did receive an email from them, I think yesterday, and the email was talking about, well, no, this would have been last week, so before Valentine's Day. So it says, choose chocolate that's sweet for everyone for Valentine's Day. Chocolate remains one of the riskiest industries for modern slavery, with labor and poverty level income still widespread. Simple switch. Choose brands that rated well on the chocolate scorecard. I took the link off here because I'm linking to it just above. All right. Or go for small Australian bean to bar makers who are transparent about their sourcing. So there's nothing about that recommendation that I think bad. Look for your local specialty chocolate makers, right? I think is a really good idea. But why they limit them to Australian, because this email is sent to people that go around the world, and there's no indication about who any of these small specialty chocolate makers are, which is, okay, we're going to recommend that you go out and find some people, but we're not going to tell you who they are. Seems to me a little crazy. And so, yeah, so that's it. So let's go take a look. I preloaded the Chocolate Scorecard website. Let's go to the homepage of the scorecard. So you can see it here. So this is the homepage of the scorecard, and here is the scorecard page itself. So we're going to talk about what isn't in these scorecards. And let me also point out that if you want to, I did produce episodes last year on the scorecard. So the 2025 Chocolate Scorecard and Tony's Fair Report, that's episode 114 of PodSafe Chocolate, and also something on Tony's Open Chain, which is an extension on this. And so if you are interested in the background of my thinking on this is something for which there is an episode, which is an extended explanation for my thoughts on this. And I think this is a good timing for this because this is Cocoa Week in Amsterdam. So we have the CHOCOA conference, bunch of things happening in Amsterdam beginning yesterday and going through this coming weekend. So I think that the timing of this, Tony's is a Dutch company. So I think that it's worthwhile go taking a look at. So let's go take a look at the Chocolate Scorecard website. So one of the things that really frustrates me, and this is what this is going to be about. These are things that I find make the scorecard less useful and less usable, right? And so I'm going to think about one of the things that frustrates me. So this is the 6th edition of the scorecard. So can we find anywhere, if we go click over here, these are not drop-down menus. If we look, we look at the top navigation, they're not drop-down menus. I mean, where is the 5th edition scorecard? Where is the 4th edition scorecard? Where is the 3rd edition scorecard? We don't know. I expect the scorecard to be up sometime between now and Easter, because Easter is Sunday, April 5th. I expect the scorecard for 2026 to be published before Easter, because this used to be called the Easter scorecard. And there's nothing here which shows me there's no history here. So that's important. What we do find is that we have ratings for medium and large companies, and there's no straight definition on the top by what qualifies as medium and large, what qualifies as small. Retailers make sense, right? I understand that what we can do is we can go to the methodology page, and the methodology page will tell us what these terms mean: medium and large, small, and retailers, right? But it's important that we don't know right here, right? There's a system which starts as green circles, yellow hexagons, orange pentagons, red squares, and gray triangles. And they do have this nice rubric, right? They tell you what it means and what the scores are. A pretty high range of scores at 25%, right? So that's just something to know. I would actually think of this rubric a little bit differently, but that's me, because this lacks transparency, I would say, is like 50% and below. What I would do is I would make these ranges much narrower: 100 to 90, 89, 90 to 80, 80 to 70, 70 to 60, and below that would be done. So, 25% is a huge range, right? There's a whole lot of difference between 76 and 99, right? So just really a thing there. But let's go take a look. So new, the first couple of editions, I think the first 4 maybe, or at least the first 3 were PDF files for which there was no interactivity. And here what we do, let me go and sort of hide me a little bit and scroll over a little bit. What you'll do is you'll see that now what I can do is I can sort by the company name alphabetically, and then I can support by the scores for traceability and transparency, living income. So all of these things are now sortable, right? And so we get the circles and the hexagons. So we have an idea, and then we have an overall score. We take each one of these things overall. That's useful. However, there's no way for me to actually export the data. There's no way for me to, I can't copy this in any way, in a way that's useful. And so if anybody who's trying to do any kind of analysis on this, is just, you have to hand copy the data, and you can't do it from this page. When there was the PDFs, at least I can extract the PDF and go and, from the PDF, I can go grab the data. And another thing you'll find, which is really, really difficult if you're trying to do apples to apples comparison from year to year to year, right, is that these categories: traceability, transparency, living income, forced and child labor, deforestation and climate, agroforestry, and pesticides, have changed, right? And their order changes. So not only have what is being reported about changes from year to year, but the order in which they are presented in the columns changes from year to year. This further complicates making year over year comparisons really, really difficult. So we have an overall score of 91 out of 100. We see 86 out of 100, 84 out of 100, and Toni's Chocolonely gets number 1 score. We hit on the right arrow over here. We go to a page for Toni's Chocolonely, right? And what we do is we find that they have what they've done is they've got an overall score of 91 here, which is what is shown in this, right? But what they've done is, out of 39 companies, they're position number 1. Out of 39 companies, they're position number 2. Out of 39 companies, they're position number 1. And so what they've just done is they haven't given us a percentage number. So we actually don't know what these numbers are. We might be able to sort of roughly estimate what they are, but we don't have an idea about how each one of these numbers ended up at 91%, right? And I'm not entirely sure why they do this, other than to suggest that they're not interested in people getting the data and analyzing it. So this is a format. It appears to be presenting a lot of information, and a lot of information transparently. But what you'll do is you'll find that it's, who knows what you've got. And here's a visual representation of what's going on. It's a chocolate bar. This is sort of funny, right? And we see this, but this is not interactive in any way. So this is Toni's, and we know that there's a big cluster sort of around here, but none of this would be relatively simple to be able to animate. So if I did a mouse over on this, I'd be able to see a company, right? And that's really quite crazy. I'm also, I'm looking at the visualization and I'm going, these visualizations aren't helpful. So this is really cool. Performance over at past editions. This is new, but it's not really helpful. It's buried fairly deeply, and again, it's difficult to be able to compare from one edition to another edition. So, for example, we see that I don't know why this is an unbroken chain, except that maybe they changed the name of this between the 5th edition and the 6th edition. We know that this is 2025, this is 24, this is 23, this is 22, but we're at 2021 and 2020. Maybe that's when they were still being done by, I believe it was Mighty Earth, and a different coalition, and Be Slavery Free took it over. There's no indication of what these are, and we're missing the numbers. All the numbers here. So this represents a 25% range. And while overall it's a push, right, we have, it went down. So it was green this year, it went down 1, it was a push, it went up 1, right? So we do have some visual indicator of what's going on. Still, there are no numbers associated with this, right? There's no position. I can't do anything with this data. And I would really like them to make this data more manageable and then surface it into something that the analysis could be done. And They appear to have a reasonable amount of funding, and for some reason, there is a whole lot of missing data. So if I want to go and try to pull this data from its, I have to go and pull this from each sheet, right, manually, right? And I have to do that for each of the, how many companies are there in here? So there are, let's see, there are 39 big companies, 6 small companies, and 17 retailers. Who counts as a small company? Beyond Good, Choba Choba, Original Beans, Chocolate Makers, Malmo, and Picari in Ecuador. So I want to do something really, really interesting. I want to go take a look at Original Beans, right? And one of the things that, as I recall about the way this is I happen to know for a fact that Original Beans, right, does not make its own chocolate, right? The chocolate for Original Beans is manufactured by Felklin, and that is not registered here. Its global position of 3 out of 6 small chocolate makers, right? And right, and number one is that they have been incredibly consistent, right? They didn't report previous years, but we find that they have reported, right? They've been incredibly consistent, but there's some really, really basic performance, some basic data, right, that we don't know about. For example, we don't know that Original Beans doesn't manufacture the chocolate that they sell. It's manufactured for them by Felklin, and that relationship is not disclosed. That is very, very consistent. For example, who manufactures the chocolate for Alter Eco, for example? And I don't know that Alter Eco is on this list anymore, but Chocolats Alba, I believe, is the manufacturer of the chocolate for Alter Eco. Toni's Chocolonely. Oh my gosh, right? One of the things that is not disclosed about Toni's Chocolonely is that the chocolate is manufactured for them by Barry Callebaut. And Barry, let's sort this, right? And we find that Barry Callebaut is up here. And oh my gosh, even though Toni's has got a 91% rating, right? Barry Callebaut has got a 57% rating with yellows and oranges across the board. And let's go take a look at Barry Callebaut historically. And what we do is starting to develop and implement good policies. All right. And it's if we look historically, it's always been in this bad position, including some pretty bad ratings. Right? The point about this is that the scorecards here turn out to be what they appear to be relatively useful, but the way the data are presented, right, makes them almost inscrutable. What we really want to know, what I really want to know, and what I think you should want to know and want to be worried about is, how do they get to these results? How do they come up? So there is, if we want to go take a look, right, there is this methodology page. We can go click on the methodology. And what we find is that we get, right, so number one, yay. One of the things I will have to give the props for is they give a definition of sustainability. So this is from the Brundtland Commission, meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generation to meet their own needs. Kudos for that. I mean, defining what you mean by sustainability, defining what you mean by transparency, defining what you mean by all these things so that we can have a discussion around them is really, really important. All right. So we can read about the plans for the 2027 edition here. I don't know that this was on this page when I looked at it last year. We'll go take a look at it. So Easter, release of the chocolate scorecard. We'll get it not on Easter, a couple of weeks before Easter. If you want to make Easter chocolate buying decisions, this needs to be published before actual Easter. So feedback by companies. So let's go take a look at this. I'm very curious. Our biggest edition yet. They've expanded the methodology, right? Who will be on the 7th edition? So the following companies. So what they've done is they've gone from 39 to 44 companies. They've defined medium and large companies as over 1,000 tons of cocoa annually. Good definition. It's buried fairly deeply. right? They are going to go and reach out to 32 retailer groups and small companies. They did not list who they're going to, and they've got the methodology. So we actually don't. You can explore last year's methodology. They haven't given us a new methodology, just who they're going to be looking at. So there's some stuff that we want to know about how they're producing it. You can go and read the methodology, right? Last year's methodology. You can go and read the methodology. And one of the things that you will find out, right, is that the people who produce this, Be Slavery Free and their NGO and other colleagues, right, are in a really, really sticky position, right? Which is they require the participation of all of these companies. So they require these companies to answer their survey instruments and to answer them fully, accurately, right? And completely. It's probably the best way to describe it, accurately and completely. And if a company doesn't like the results that they're given, what they're, they can choose not to participate in a future year. There's always that. It remains to be seen. Is it better to be seen as not participating, as it is to participate and have a bad score? I mean, this is something that I brought up. I mean, and it's something that, as a journalist and a reporter, I have to be aware of, which is that in order for me to write stories, I need access. I want to be able to know that I can contact the VP of marketing or somebody who's in charge of that function in a company and get them to, number one, answer my phone call and get them to answer my questions, again, accurately and completely. And if I make them mad at me, right, the likelihood that they'll pick up the phone becomes a lot less. And so in this particular case, the people at Be Slavery Free, right, all of their partners are dancing that line, right, is that when we talk about participation in data collection, right, what they need to see is they need the active participation of all these companies. And if a company doesn't like the way it is represented, what are they going to do, and what are the Be Slavery Free people going to be do? There is no external audit, to the extent of my understanding. There's no verification that the data that are being given by the companies are actually 100% true in fact and are 100% complete in fact. The Be Slavery Free people are required to assume that the people, the companies they're interacting with, are again accurate and complete. There's also this really, really interesting. I mean, of the what is it, 39 of the companies that are represented, there's an overrepresentation of Europe. Now, it may be that the reason why there are only 6 companies in North America is that some of the largest companies, for example, Mondelez, which is headquartered in Chicago, did not participate in the survey. And so we don't, these numbers, but there's an overrepresentation of Europe here. I mean, Australia, I know the Be Slavery Free is in Australia. So that makes sense. 90% of the world's cocoa is purchased by these companies. And I'm going, who the heck, right? Proofread this. So 60 participants, 39 small companies, 15 retailers. Madagascar is an island over here. Why is it pointing to South Africa? I'm just, it's just this sort of level of attention to detail drives me crazy. And so when it comes to the methodology and things like that, and the presentation of data, there are lots of small bits of details that need to, in my opinion, as somebody who wants to report about these report about the scorecards, talk about them intelligently, the people who put together the reports do a very bad job I mean, very bad job. The people who put together these reports should go look at the work of Edward Tufte, The Visual Display of Quantitative Information, and other books to say, how do we go and represent this data in ways that will make sure that what we're doing is making it intelligible, right, at a glance. We want to present it. We don't want people to misapprehend what it is that we're doing, unless, of course, what you're deliberately trying to do is obfuscate the results. And what you're deliberately trying to do is make it difficult, unless what you're deliberately want people to do is only to take top line results and not dive into them deeply, right? There's a lot of time, it seems, looking to make these things look nice, but not necessarily a review that says, are we in fact communicating what it is that we intend to communicate? Are we making it easy for people to go and be able to dive into the data? If this is in a database, then it's an entirely a UI and UX a question. And I've tried running an LLM against these pages to extract what's going on, and I haven't been able to figure out how to get data that's intelligible. One thing I do want to talk about this, and I think that for somebody who is all up in the faces about people about transparency and reporting, is we're going to go meet the team, right? And so what I want to do is, we have a couple of university partners here, the Open University, and this is not a link, right? And this is not a link. So I can't go to the Open University and the University of Wollongong in Australia. I can't go to them, right? This ACRAF, oh, the image is a link here. That's nice. But the ADS, that's not a link. The Baptist World Aid Australia, that's a link. Be Slavery Free, that makes sense because they're the publishers of this, right? So, oh, that's really interesting, the areas on which I can talk. So some of these things are linked, YCCNP is not. So they just make it harder for the people who want to figure out what to do, figure out what's going on to figure it out. Now, I would also like to know, what does Blue Number do, right? Right, if it's an NGO, right? We don't know if it's a financial partner yet. We'll get to that. Right? But we don't know what these companies do, what these organizations do to help in the process, right? I would like to know what this the Blickfield Menschenhandel do, right, for this project. And I won't get that by clicking on the link, right? It's in German. I don't know what Durtschi prevent. So I'm guessing prevention, right? That makes sense. But I don't know what any of these companies do, right, with respect to what's going on, and the lack and the use of URLs, right? So making these links is inconsistent, right? Which is frustrating, right? So we have a lot of these companies, they're in alphabetical order, right? So again, they're inconsistent. The executive team. So Carolyn Kiddo, there is no bio here. So maybe I can go to the Be Slavery Free website and find out who these people are. But the executive team, Carolyn, and I'm assuming her husband Fuzz, right? And these people, there's no information about who these people are and what their relationship is to the study. I go to the advisory team, and the same thing is true, right? I don't know who Claire Harris is. I don't know why she is on the advisory team. I don't know where she's doing. We also have Data Integrity and Ethics Research Team, Data Integrity and Ethics and Research. Data Integrity and Ethics. That appears to be a compound. Curious to me, not entirely sure what's going on. And anyway, it's a Data Integrity, ethics, and research. I'm a huge Oxford comma person. I don't know what's going on. But here we have doctor, and we don't even know their university. We don't know their academic relationships, if they have one or their history. There's no biographical information here whatsoever. I'm going to go find out. No, I just wanted to go and check something right here. So the data, and then we have the expert knowledge and scoring team. So we have the categories here. So living income, gender, category alignment, executive team. I'm looking at living income, and I remember that as a category. Let's go take a look. Is gender equity? So gender is leading industry. So gender, child and forced labor, deforestation, climate, agroforestry, pesticide, transparency, and traceability. Gender is not an issue, which appears to be a part of the scoring system. It would be interesting to know, if gender is a part of the methodology rubric, that there's a link to that. But again, we don't know. This is the second time we've run into Carolyn and Fuzz. We don't know what their institutional affiliations are here in this particular case. Anthony Fountain in category alignment, he's with the Voice Network in Europe, right? So he's a well-known person, but there's nothing about this, right? And so from a transparency perspective, hey guys, right, make this more transparent. Who are these people? Why are they involved? What do they do? Child and forced labor, that's one of the categories, child labor, right? Category alignment, what does category alignment mean? We have to define what that means. It's not defined here, right? So there's a whole lot of stuff, right? I don't know who Guillaume Delarue is, right? Traceability and transparency, that's a category, right, in the rubric. And we need to be, it's really, really frustrating to me, right? That what I need to do is I need to go and individually look these people up and find out what their relationships is. So the organizations they work for, and to understand if there might be a relationship to a funding partner, or there might be a relationship to an NGO, to find out if in fact there might be a conflict of interest associated with the person who is doing this role. I mean, I don't think any of these people, I hope, right, I have not checked, but I don't think any of these people is directly connected, like as an employment relationship, with any of the companies that are mentioned in the report. I certainly hope not, but it would be an enormous amount of effort to go figure this out. So who are these people? Why are they here? Why have they been chosen? What it is that they're doing? What is their background? I'm hoping that Dr. Stephanie Williamson, who's in pesticides, right, is a biochemist, right, and that's what her background is. And I, just there's all this stuff. Funding partners, right? The Arcus Foundation. Fortunately, all of these are links, and I can go figure them out. But what I really also, there is a complicated web of relationships here that is not being addressed whatsoever. And this would be my call for Be Slavery Free for 2026. It's way too late for them to do this year. I'm guessing that 90% of the work that needs to be done in order to present the data are already done, and they're well in line, getting well on their way to producing the 7th edition website. Number one, right, is if you're all in on transparency, be transparent about all of the people who are in any of your committees, right? Let us know who they are and link to the people who are their current employers, right? The other thing is also there is going to be history. So, if you're on this list, right? If you're on this list, the executive team I would expect, but advisory team, 5th edition, 4th edition, 7th edition, give us some history with these people. Let us know how long they've been involved and what it is that's going on. If you want to be transparent, this is what transparency means. And your organization needs to be transparent about these things, right? And you need to make it as easy as possible for people to go and negotiate, right? And to, for example, I would like to compare 2 companies directly, right? What are the differences? I want to compare one company over time. I want the scores over time. I want to be able to do that, have all the raw data in a database, a spreadsheet even, which can be downloaded so that somebody can go and take a look at it. You want people, I would think, right, that if you're all up in transparency, that you want to make it as easy as possible for people to go and, do secondary research on this stuff, right? Because one of the things that we've learned about, organizations is there is the possibility of greenwashing. And I am worried about the possibility of greenwashing here, right? And you're not doing anything to give me any confidence, right, that I can rely on the representations that are being made in the scores. And that's what I want to do. Before we continue, we have somebody from Arm Wrestling Store. Don't know where in the world you're connecting from. It is amateurish at best. The idea is good, but I don't see how this type of ranking in chocolate production can truly be ranked too gray. It's too gray. And the answer is, I agree with you, right? I am going to acknowledge that it's an incredible amount of work, even to get to the point that they're at with respect to what they're doing. It's just an insane amount of work. And to get this many companies to sit down and share this amount of information is an incredible achievement. Props is an incredible achievement. Props to everybody for doing this, right? But in my analysis of every single one of the scorecards, and I do have previous scorecards that were presented in PDF format. When they're not in PDF format, there's nowhere for me to grab the data, which is really, really bad policy, guys, at Be Slavery Free, right? You want to have this data available to people, and you're obfuscating the data. You're making hard to get. Now, if you want to send me the data, I would be happy in a spreadsheet. I would be happy to look at it. And what we can do is we can do some resolution to name changes from column to column to year, right? But, something as simple as like putting all of the columns in the same order, right, from year to year. So you don't have to go and move things around. Just something as simple as that, right? Which, again, I don't know what the design decision is. I don't know what the process is. And I'm going to not assume that it's deliberate. I just think you haven't thought about it. You haven't given it enough thought, right, to think about how do we go about increasing the level of confidence that people can have in this, right? Because at the moment, it's just one number, right? Oh, you got a 91 out of 100 and you're green. And anything that is 75 or 76 and above is green. And there's a huge gulf between 99 and 76, right? And that's not reflected in here, right? And it seems arbitrary, right? So, right, that we divided it into 5 categories, and the top 4 are 25% each. Nah, I want you to grade on a curve. And I want to get more detail on what goes on. And then from a transparency perspective, I can say, okay, you are being transparent. I don't need the actual answers that are given to the survey instruments. I just want a better idea of detail and nuance. You've taken an insane amount of nuance from the survey, which is in the methodology section in case anybody's interested. And you've collapsed it all into a single number with 0 nuance, right? Which makes it a real challenge for me. And there's a whole lot of data which is missing. And this is something where Be Slavery Free has got to be more open and got to be more transparent, which is the number one ranking, 91% out of 100, is Toni's Chocolonely. However, there is no disclosure of the relationship to Barry Callebaut, which has got a 57, right, and has got a middling score on child and forced labor, right? So you can't disconnect the ethics of agriculture from the ethics of manufacturing. We just can't do it. So to say, well, because Toni's supply chain is independent, their cocoa supply chain is independent of Barry Callebaut's, they're okay. No, you can't do that. What you need to do. So, for example, I understand that, Blommer, Fuji Oil, that's really nice. We have that relationship. But, who are the companies that are using, who are co-manufacturing? Who are the companies, big brands that are co-manufacturing, right? So that we know the relationship. So, for example, Glico, the Japanese company, Izaki Glico, owns Cho in the United States. It would be really nice to know that Cho is a brand, and that can we say that, do we get Glico a score of 11%? Does that mean Cho has a score of 11%, right? I've known Brad Kinser who is in charge of chocolate manufacturing. at Cho, so I'd like to think not. I know the founder of the company, Timothy Childs. I know the first money, so Jane Metcalf and Liz Rossetto. I've been following Cho since 2007, right? I'd like to think that that they have a very, very different score from a Glico, but all of this is right. So Godiva, they don't manufacture chocolate. Who manufactures the chocolate for them? Hershey's, right, does manufacture their own chocolate. There has been a rumor that Hershey's doesn't manufacture their own chocolate, but it turns out that what happened is that they changed recipes, and the changing of so this was done in like 2012 or 2014 or something like that. And over the course of changing the recipes, there was the impression, and unfortunately, this is something that I misunderstood and have said in the past, that Hershey's was no longer manufacturing their own chocolate. Turns out that's not true. But however, I mean, they're still processing beans. But it turns out that a lot of the recipes have gone over and are not technically chocolate because they're compound, right? So there's a whole lot of stuff we need to do here that we're missing. I mean, at this particular, where are these guys headquartered would be another thing that I would like to do. Anyway, just there is a whole lot of detail that I don't see here that, hey guys at Be Slavery Free and whoever is your design partner on this, more information would be better, and give us a data dump of all the information, right, that is in here. So what we can do is we can go and take a look at the scores year over year over year for as many years as you can give us, right? So that we can start doing some analysis right here. So one thing that's impossible for us to know here, right, without doing a lot of handwork, is what is the average score each year, and is the average score in each category overall and in each category trending up or trending down? That's another thing we need to know. One other thing about so Our Wrestling Store, great question. Thank you very much. I don't, right. I went to design school. I went to Rhode Island School of Design. So, and they were very, very heavily influenced by, Swiss design principles and design theoreticians like Edward Tufte in his work. And, Ed was, I've taken classes from him personally, was at Yale, also School of Design. And they don't care. I mean, which is that? I mean, that aspect I find is completely amateurish. The other thing that I want to talk about this, which I think is just really, really crazy, and this is the last thing I'll say about this, and we'll go to Tony's, is that they haven't updated the state of cocoa page since this was published. And so they look at this graph and it ends at January of 2025, right? And the price is now sitting down here around 4,000. So if somebody wasn't aware of what had gone on in cocoa in the last 3 months, they would get the wrong impression of this. So they were perhaps correct, right, when they're talking about what's going on in 2024 and 2025, but this is not the current state of cocoa, right? And there's no history here, right? They can't do state of cocoa 3rd edition, state of cocoa 4th edition, state of cocoa 5th edition, state of cocoa 6th edition. They don't provide that history, which is a complete and utter waste. I am going to predict with a confidence level of greater than 90% that when we look at the 7th edition, we look at the state of cocoa, there's no historical data, that they're not going to do anything with respect to saying, here's what things happened. They're not going to say, here's what we said last year, here's the things this year. I am going to predict that none of that is there. They talk about production. They don't talk about, it's like, okay, well, pricing changes, right? The human nervous system is really bad about, I look at this, 2023 to 2024, production went down. I have to go back here and say, what happened between 2023 is not even on the list, and 2023 is on the list here, but these charts are different sizes and the scales, right? This is real frustrating as somebody who is interested in information design. So let's leave it there. What I want to do is I want to go talk about annual fair report. So this is the Toni Chocolonely's website. It is live. I am there. So one of the things I'm going to give Toni's prop for is if you can look at the 2024, 2025 report, you can look at the 2023, 2024 report, you can look at the 2022, 2023 report. So they do link to the reports. Now they're hugely different in size, right? You know, some of them are under 100 megabytes, some of them are well over 100 megabytes. The difference in size is pretty huge. And notice that what they want you to do is they are constantly hitting you with the word fair in terms of their animations. Fair. Who decides what's fair, right? In this particular case, you know, Toni's is telling you what's fair, but what this is an appeal to emotion, right? Right? That they're claiming that they're fair, that this is their fair report, right? Which means they're influencing your thoughts before you go actually and look at the report. So let's go take a look at the report, right? And so they're downloading a flip book. That's pretty cool. I mean, I can go through and look at it. The books are downloadable. So I have a copy on a local hard drive of every single one of Toni's reports. It is next to impossible to be able to go take information from one year and then compare it against another year. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you why, right? So the reason why it is next to impossible, right, to compare data from one year to the next year, there are two, right? Which is their design language is deliberately obfuscatory. This is the table of contents, right? And we not only is it in a font, which if you were dyslexic, this would be insanely difficult to read, right? So they're not worried about readability, legibility of people with learning disabilities and looking at it, right? But, you know, page numbers are hard to read, and it's really, really busy. And for some reason, we have to go and follow this puzzle. You know, it looks like a puzzle, even though it is a path from one to another. And keep in mind is that they can, through very, very subtle visual clues, sweet, game, no, is no, big, biz, right? What they're doing is they're setting you up visually through the visual language they're influencing you emotionally with words like fair, right? And the words they choose to make big, right? To make this visible. If this were just a straight table of contents, there would be no emotional loading, right? So it's like standing in line at a Disney park, right? In line, they're getting you ready to go on the attraction, right? And this is what Toni's is doing here, right? If you were to put this into a table of contents, right, that wasn't loaded like this, when you went into the report, you would feel very differently. So, all right. So what they've done here, one thing they have done, right, which is sort of nice, is what they've done is you see this general, social, general, governance. So what they are doing is they're giving a clue from the path. But what you need to do is you need to pay attention and say, oh, I can navigate the document, right, using these things. It's a good idea. Could it be made more obvious? The answer is absolutely. I believe that it can, right, be made more obvious, right? So they're choosing a font here, which looks like it might be American Typewriter, or in that family of typewriter fonts, which is not a particularly legible font. Again, if you are dyslexic, hey guys, there are fonts. Hey guys at Toni's design team, there are fonts, Lexand, Lotto, there are a couple of them, which are specifically designed to be legible, right? And for people who have visual learning disabilities, dyslexia, to decode, do that, all right? It will make everything easier to use, everything easier to decode, all right? So our year at a glance, and then we see page 167, which is financials, right? So we could do a link all right, there, which would help us understand what's going on. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. But right, a chief word from our chief Chocolonely, Douglas. This is a way to personalize, the chief executive officer and make him more approachable, right? So again, they're trying to emotionally steer you in a particular direction, right? And I want to go to this page. So number one, right? Oh my gosh. They've changed this page. Oh my gosh, they've changed this page, I think. If I were to go back and look at the version that I've got on my hard drive, or that I took a screenshot of, I think this page has changed. And this is a real challenge, right? So one of the reasons why I wanted to point out this page is that when I looked at this, and if you go to one of the links on the page here, if we go to this, maybe this one, right, where I've got screenshots. Right. So do I have screenshots of this page? The answer is no, I don't have screenshots of this page. Let's go and take a look at this one, right? Because I may have taken screenshots here. Oh my gosh, this is what this page looked like, right, when they originally published the report. And here's what this page looks like now, and it's different. Oh my gosh, there's numbers here which are no longer here. Oh my gosh, is there anything that says, oh no, we updated this page? No, there's not. Oh my gosh, guys, all right, what's that all about? Oh, come on, Toni. Come on, Douglas, right? Your head Chocolonely. Come on, guys. You are obfuscating here. You are changing the amount of data that you're representing, and you're influencing. This number, 3 million, right, is big. This number, 32 million, is big, right? So, but this number here is small. 32,000 farmers, 26,000 metric tons of beans. That's less than 1 metric ton of bean per farmer, right? And even if you're paying a premium, oh my gosh, see this child labor prevalence rate? Well, you have to click up here to 4% and 9%. But if we go look at this, the child labor rate, it's there. This is 2023-24. But I hope you understand, all right, that they're changing the way that they're presenting the data. Now, I may have overreacted. This is 2024, 2025, and this is 2024. All right. But I'll have to go and take a look at my stored copy to find out if, in fact, they are representing the data in the same way visually. But another point to make is this is the way it was in 2023. This is the way it was in 2024. And so what they've done is they've reduced the amount of data that they're presenting. Not very transparent, guys, right? And again, visually what they're doing is they're saying, this is a real big number, 32 million. This is a real tiny number, 26,000. This is a real big number, 3 million. Oh, we've got, right? And I can tell you that one of the things that I did, this all the way over here, this total amount of premium paid, Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana, right? That they changed this. They changed this. So if we were to go from the 2024-2025 report, and we were to go back one page and look at 2023-24, read the report. I'm just. So we still have the same design language. All right. So here's the 2023 report. See this amount of living income, right? Price paid. It's the living income reference price paid, right? I pointed out that this is not quite possible. This number is not possible. Here's what it was, total amount of premium paid, right? And what they haven't done is they haven't said, oh my gosh, right? We updated this page because somebody, right, pointed out this number couldn't possibly be right. So they've updated the page and doing it. Again, if I go back and think about this in another way, that the issue that we've got, I'm going back, is that they've changed what they are actually presenting each year, and that's just, hey guys, you know, from year to year to year, what you've just made it very, very difficult to do is to understand what their trajectory is, right? There's no way to take this data other than hand copying and hand pasting and looking through a series of documents and figure it out, or run an LLM, right? So you'll take a page and then, take a page, right, from this, you download it as a PDF, take an individual page, export that individual page as a PDF so the text is in the document and can be read, and then go and say to an LLM, go and show me the differences between the two. And what I will do is I will do that. I will go and take the page and say, how are these numbers been represented the same or differently over the course of history? So one real quote, one more comment. The number of red flags you were able to uncover these sites are taunting, the raging bull of my psyche. It makes me to trust all the sites I might access on the web. I'm blown away by your investigative prowess. Well, Andy, thank you very much. I appreciate this. I'm just bringing the tools of skepticism to this. But I'm also, to some extent, my background before I got into chocolate includes more than 20 years in high technology, and for much of that, an emphasis in information management technology, semantic networks, and, as I say, visual design from my background at Rhode Island School of Design. Even though I wasn't in the graphic design department, I did take classes in there, and a lot of friends who were in it. I was introduced to the work of Edward Tufte. Let me go get a book. I only have one of his books in my library at the moment. All of the other books I've got are in storage, including Visual Display of Quantitative Information. But this is his book called Beautiful Evidence. And if you really want to understand, how to make not only visually compelling, but also charts and graphs and tables that can easily be coded to present a message, I can't recommend Edward Tufte more highly. And what I will do, because I have talked about it, is what I'm going to do is I'm going to, on the post for today's episodes, I'll put links for a couple of the Edward Tufte books that I specifically recommend if you are at all interested in this topic, especially, as I say, VDQI, the visual display of quantitative information. It was the first of his books that I ever read, and it's really, really quite phenomenal. It will change your mind. So, Andy, what I will say is that one of the reasons why I do these episodes, right, and is that I want to help you be a more skeptical observer, right? So if we look at this annual report season, that there are previous episodes where I do talk about, right, significantly, every single one of the news and AMA episodes, I do talk about news and why we should be a little more skeptical, perhaps, on what we're doing. Right, this whole Maya ceremonial cacao a lot of it was about decoding the websites, and this was about ClickFunnels and all sorts of ways in which you might be deceived if you're not paying close attention, right? And I can do this because I've been doing it like professionally since 1983. I've been doing it for 42 years now. I've been doing it for a long time, right? And what I'm able to do, it's just, right, when you immerse yourself into a topic, you get this sensibility, right? You get the sensibility, and you can go and, sometimes just go, very quickly, this number and this number, they don't add up. Why aren't they adding up, right? Again, I want to be very, very clear, right, that I am not saying that this is deliberate. I am not saying that this is deliberate. I don't have any special knowledge. I'm not special in understanding. What I am saying is that you should be skeptical of claims that manufacturers make about their products, right? And about their transparency and traceability and all these other issues, right? You do need to unfortunately, you need to know a lot about stuff in order to be able to take a look and go, there's something not quite right here. And you need to be able to, through experience, right? And that's one of the reasons why I developed the LLM tools that I have. I've mentioned this in the past. I have a series of 4 prompts that I have developed over the course of the last year or so, and that I continually update in order to help me. But one of the prompts is called summarize. So summarize this document, or here are 5 web pages, or here are 5 documents. Summarize these, right? And then when you get done, explain them, right? And then when you get done with that, analyze them. And when you get done with that, fact check them, right? And the important thing is, don't rely on what the LLM is saying to you, right? But what the LLM does is says, here's a 250-page document, or here are 7 documents that together are 250 pages. How do I without reading 250 pages or 1,000 pages, how can I develop some sense of what's going on, right? And you can tailor the prompt to say, oh, what page of that document was this on, right? So you can get to that granular level of detail, and then you can say, what are some of the other sources that they might be referring to? So you can follow. So there are lots of ways you can use these tools to go, oh, they are consistent, or they're internally consistent, or they're internally inconsistent. And because you can have memory across multiple of these series of prompts, you can really quickly get something that will help you say, here is where some inconsistencies lie or may lie, and where more research needs to be done. And here are the sources that were referred to, and you can go and take a look at those sources. So that's all. This is made much easier. What might have taken me 20 or 30 hours to do in 2020 can now take me 20 or 30 minutes to do in 2026. And that's what's changed. But the nature of those prompts is based very, very much on my, subject matter expertise in chocolate and cocoa. So thank you very much. You can do this. It is a muscle. It is a skill you can develop. And it is something that I have been talking about and demonstrating in a lot of episodes of Pod Safe Chocolate over the past year. And that's the hour. I just wanted to go over it. And, hey, Tony's, just, like I said for Chocolate Scorecard, just be more consistent. Make the visual language easier to decode, right? People don't want, it's not a game. It's not a maze. It's not a path, right? We don't, stop trying to manipulate our emotions by visually, right, depicting some things as big and some things as small. Pay no attention to this small number, even though, oh my gosh, if I take this small number and this big number, I'll go, oh, what does that mean? It's like, oh, let's go here. This is the 2023-2024 report, right? But 20,000 farmers and 17,000 metric tons means, oh my gosh, it's still less than 1 metric ton per farmer. And even if we're giving them an extra $250 per metric ton, that's less than $250, right? We're looking at 200 million in revenue, but we're looking about how much did we pay in fair trade premiums overall? Is it even listed here? No. How much did we pay in premiums? No. You have to do a lot of work in order to figure things out. Guys, make it easy on us. All right? All right. With Tony's, I believe that they are deliberately obfuscating. The visual language that they have chosen is designed deliberately to make it difficult. Hey, if you're at Tony's and you want to tell me different, right, and you actually have this data, right, and I have documented you changed this, right? I know that you have, right? Right? Make it easy. You have reduced the amount of information. You're decomposing, right? You're pointing us in particular directions. Stop. Stop, 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 stop. Right? Right? If you want me to believe your messages, right, don't try to emotionally front load everything and visually guide me, and pay no attention to the person behind the curtain over here. pay no attention to this. We want you to focus over here, right? And you're doing that in the design language that you've chosen, right? I see what you're onto, right? And with that, I want to say that this is the end of this episode of Pod Save Chocolate. I want to thank everybody for joining me, the comments that were made. I do want to point out a couple of things. Number one is this episode of Pod Save Chocolate is sponsored by the members of the Chocolate Life. If you're not a member, you can go click on the join button. Since 2008, there's always been a free membership tier, and since 2020, there have been premium membership tiers that start as little as $5 a month or $42 a year. If you do have the resources to support the work that I do financially, great. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And that higher levels, the leader, champion, and guru levels, come with 1, 2, and 3 hours of coaching and consulting. So if you would like me to help you with your chocolate or cocoa business in 2026, sign up for a membership at one of these tier levels, upper tier levels, and you will get coaching and consulting hours at a considerable discount. I mean, this is like $140 an hour, which is like a considerable discount over my one-off rate. So I just wanted to point that out. The other thing I wanted to point out is that if you are already a member of the Chocolate Life, a premium member of Chocolate Life, I published an ebook, and you can go, right? I'm not logged in, and so you'll see that you need to be a premium subscriber in order to get this. But based on a previous episode of Pod Save Chocolate, what I've done is I have turned it into a handy little ebook that you can go and use, take advantage of the trends that I talked about, right, in order to grow your business. And one last thing. Today, February 17th, is the launch of a Kickstarter. And the Kickstarter is for the HomeChocolat Chocolatier Pro. The Chocolatier Pro is a small tabletop tempering machine, very, very quiet tempering machine, which is, for want of a better way to think about it, is a direct competitor to the ChocoVision Rev 1 and Rev 2, right? And it is available right now on Kickstarter. They did have a 20 of them, 20 machines available at a really high discount, the VIP early bird discount. They're taken, but they're still a significant discount on it. I'm going to be doing this Friday's episode. It's going to be a deep dive on this. The reason why is, from the beginning of the development of this machine, I have been a part of the committee, the advisory group that has been talking about it. So if you're interested, that's what we're going to be talking about this coming Friday. Right? But you can go to Kickstarter right now and you can back this project. It's pretty cool. If you're looking for a small tempering machine for your chocolate business, or you're at home and you're looking to you're afraid of tempering for one reason or another, then this is a way that's going to help you produce tempered chocolate that you can use at home. If you're a professional confectioner, this is a relatively inexpensive machine. It's quiet compared with the ChocoVision, and there are lots of applications for this, which I will be talking about this coming Friday during the episode. And that's it. That's this episode of Pod Save Chocolate for Tuesday, February 17th. I want to thank everybody for joining me today. I want to thank Andy for his question, and Arm Wrestling Store for their question. And to remind everybody, as we head into this week, that if you're working with chocolate and you're not having fun, you just might be doing it wrong. Ciao, everybody. Until the next time.